All right, let's talk Scrum. We're going to break down the entire official guide in just the next 5 minutes. So if you've ever been on a huge, complicated project where you feel like you're lost in the weeds, well, this explainer's definitely for you.
But first, let me just ask you this. How do you even begin to solve those big, messy problems? You know, the ones where you can't possibly know all the answers right from the start. It's a tough one, right? Well, that is the exact kind of challenge that Scrum was designed to tackle.
Okay, so what is it? The official guide calls Scrum a lightweight framework, and I want you to hang on to that word, lightweight. This is not some massive, heavy instruction manual. Think of it more like the basic frame of a car. It gives you the essential structure, but it trusts you to pick the right engine and the right wheels for the road you're actually on.
When you boil it all down, Scrum is really just a simple, repeating loop. It starts when a product owner figures out the most important work to do. Then, the team gets together and builds a small, usable piece of value. After that, the team and its stakeholders look at what was just made and talk about it. And then, you just repeat the whole thing. This cycle of build, inspect, adapt, that's the engine of Scrum.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with what Scrum is, then we'll look at the principles behind it, meet the players on the team, see the process in action, and wrap it all up with the single biggest idea you need to remember. Let's get right into it. Remember how we said it's a framework? Well, Scrum is intentionally incomplete. It gives you the rules of the game, not a detailed playbook that tells you every single move to make. It sets the boundaries, but it relies on the intelligence of the people who are actually playing the game. Okay, so if it's a game, what are the rules based on? To really get Scrum, you have to understand the why behind the what. We need to look at the core principles that make the whole thing tick. It all really comes down to two powerful ideas. The first is empiricism. That's just a fancy way of saying we learn by doing. You don't make big plans based on guesswork. You make decisions based on what you can actually see and prove. And the second idea is lean thinking, which is all about cutting out the noise and focusing only on what's absolutely essential to create value. Now, this idea of learning as you go, it really stands on 3 pillars. And they all need each other. You take one away and the whole thing falls over. It has to start with transparency, meaning the work and the progress have to be visible to everyone. That transparency allows for frequent inspection, so you can check how you're doing. And that inspection is totally useless if it doesn't lead to adaptation, which is just changing your plan based on what you learned. But here's the thing. Those pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation, they don't just happen. They have to be built on a solid foundation of trust. And that trust comes from these 5 values: commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. When a team lives these values, they create the kind of safe environment where Scrum can actually work.
Okay, we've got the theory down. Now let's talk about the people. Who are the players on the field in this game of Scrum?
The very first thing you need to know is that a Scrum team is small. We're talking 10 people or fewer. And that's not just some random number. That small size is what keeps the team nimble and makes communication easy. It lets them be truly self-managing, where they decide together who does what, when, and how.
And inside that small team, you won't find traditional job titles or hierarchies. Instead, there are just 3 distinct accountabilities. The developers are focused on doing the work. They're the ones building a usable product. The product owner is focused on the what. They're responsible for making sure the team is building the right thing to maximize value. And the Scrum Master is focused on the process. They're like a coach, making sure the team is as effective as it can be.
All right, so we've got the principles and the people. Now let's look at the process in action. How does a team get from just an idea to a valuable finished product? Well, it all follows a very clear and steady rhythm. And the core of that rhythm is called the sprint. The Scrum Guide calls it the heartbeat of Scrum, and for good reason. It's a short, consistent cycle, always a month or less, that gives the team a steady pulse and turns big ideas into real value, one step at a time. So inside every single sprint, you have 4 formal events. You kick things off with sprint planning, which is where the team creates their plan for the sprint. Then, every day the developers have a quick check-in called the daily scrum. At the end of the sprint, you have the sprint review, where the team shows what they built. And finally, there's the sprint retrospective, where the team looks back and figures out how to improve. Each event is a formal chance to inspect and adapt. So, with all this happening, how does everyone stay on the same page? How do you make all the work visible? Scrum has 3 key tools for transparency, which it calls artifacts. First up, you have the product backlog. Just think of this as the single source of truth for all the work that needs to be done on the product.
It's a living, prioritized to-do list that is always pointing the team toward their long-term product goal.
Now, you can't work on that giant list all at once. So for each sprint, the team pulls a small chunk from the top of the product backlog. That chunk becomes the sprint backlog. It's the team's real-time plan for the next few weeks, and it's all focused on hitting their short-term sprint goal.
And finally, the whole point of the sprint, creating an increment. Now, this is not just a bunch of half-finished work. It is a concrete, usable, valuable piece of the product. It's a real stepping stone toward the product goal, and it absolutely must meet the team's agreed-upon quality standard, their definition of done.
So let's zoom out and put all these pieces together. After all this, what's the one big idea you should walk away with? Why is this simple framework so incredibly powerful for complex work?
You know, this quote from Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, the creators of Scrum, really says it all. The framework doesn't give you every answer. It's not supposed to. It's purposefully incomplete. It just gives you the bare minimum needed to bring the ideas of empiricism to life.
And that's the real secret. Scrum isn't some magic process that automatically solves your problems. Its success comes from the people using it. It's a framework designed from the ground up to unlock the collective intelligence, creativity, and skill of the team that's actually doing the work.
And that leaves us with one final thought. The Scrum Guide gives you the roles, the events, and the artifacts. It gives you the rules of the game. The real question it asks you and your team is this: how are you going to play?